Alright guys, so we're going to start working on this torpedo heater, and I just wanted to point out real quick, here's the original power cord on this thing, and you can see that it was, I mean, there's tape on it, it's dry rotted, I mean, the insulation's fallen off of this thing completely, so I couldn't plug it in to even see if it would work with the way it was, and it's a good thing I didn't, because this would have shorted out for one, and plus, all the stuff that was inside this, it would have been a complete mess. I did get all the parts cleaned up, so we're going to start putting some of these parts back on. And like I said, this is a 97,000 BTU. None of these tags on this thing are legible. I cannot find anything about it, but I did find a book from Equipment Supply. It's a tech manual. It tells you all about these units, and they were made under several different manufacturers and stuff. And that's what this book here is. It's a book that I downloaded off of their site and printed it out. And it tells you all about almost every unit that's ever been out there. And I mean, it's a good book. It tells you parts breakdown, parts, all that stuff. So if you ever go to equipmentsupply.com, I think it's actually equipsupply.com, get one of these manuals if you're dealing with these guys, because it makes it a lot easier. So with that said, I checked the combustion chamber. The combustion chamber is not in the greatest of shape, but there's no holes in it and stuff, so we're going to kind of run with it as it is. I want to make sure everything else works before we start replacing expensive parts. I don't remember what these are, but I don't really want to mess with that yet. So one of the major things that we did find is, here's the original filter in here. And I don't know how well you can see that, but look at all these holes in here. I mean, it's beat. So I'm going to show you how to get around that. So with that said, let's start assembling this. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to work backwards. So I'm going to start with the combustion chamber. I already got it screwed back in after I cleaned it out. So now we're going to go to this. We're going to install the spark plug, the nozzle and everything, and then we'll just keep working our way back. So let's get started. Alright, so like I said, this is the first thing we're going to install, and just line it up to the existing holes and get it screwed in. This part's actually pretty straightforward. And there's only 3 screws on this. That's all it ever holds most of them in. Okay, so the nozzle, I took it apart and cleaned it up. Actually, it turned out really nice. Very pleased with that. And I'm just going off the old set screw. So it just goes in there like that. And there's just a set screw in here that holds it on. And I'm not going to go crazy tight because I want to make sure all the lines line up. So the spark plug, I couldn't find anything wrong with it. If you're asking why these threads are stripped out on this, it won't actually hurt it. But a lot of times people don't know that this model uses a set screw to tighten this in, and it doesn't thread into here. So what usually happens is people try to crank on this, and it just kills the threads on this because it's going against that set screw. But like I said, it won't hurt anything. It does seem fine. So on this model here, the spark plug gap is supposed to be roughly the thickness of a dime. So that's an easy way to set that on these. And that's all I did. And then also, it's very hard to see, but you can see that there's a red line right there. Well, that red line is supposed to line up to this guy. In other words, towards the nozzle. So it'll go in just like this. And then that could be snugged up. And this one I am going to go ahead and snug it up, because that is not going to hurt anything. Alright, so next is the fuel line. And like I said, it's in bad shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the propane torch, heat this up, and slide this off with a wet rag. Okay, so I got my propane torch ready. Here's my damp rag. And what we're going to do is just heat this up right here at this end to melt that solder. I'm going to throw some of that on the floor and then just slide it off, just like that. I don't know how much of that you saw, but so once that's like that, we're going to go ahead and slide this boot like down, and we're going to go ahead and get him installed. And there's just a hole down here, and it should snap into place just like that. I was really surprised that that boot was not bad. So the other thing we're going to do now is we're going to measure this length, because we want to make sure this stays the same length. So this length is, it's about 10 3/4. I'm sorry, 9 and it's almost 10 inches. Actually, it's 10 inches to the top of the pipe to the end of the bevel here. So that's the number we want to have. So remember, this guy goes down through here into the tank and sits roughly right there. We don't want to put it together without a filter. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an inline filter, and I'm not sure exactly where. Since there's a lot more room down here, we're going to go ahead and put it in the tank. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. I wanted to put it up here, but, and these inline filters, you can use these on this. It will not hurt anything. So, all right, we'll go ahead and get that marked, and we're going to cut it in here somewhere. Some of the other models too did have inline filters in them. I didn't really want to put this in the tank, but it won't hurt anything. All right. All right, we'll stuff this in here. We'll make sure our length again. And that's about 10 inches, about where it was. So let's go ahead and get the other zip tie on. All right, now we can get him down in here. There it went. All right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get, there's a cover that goes over here and some miscellaneous stuff. Basically, it's the pump and the motor. So we're going to go ahead and install that, and then we'll go ahead and take the back of the pump and stuff apart. So we can also get the air line installed at this time, and it goes basically just like that. So if you notice, all the newer models, these are all rubber lines. So this is kind of dates it too. All the older ones have solid lines in this. Okay, so here's the motor, the air pump, the fan. It's all one assembly. And these lines all go up through the bottom down here. There we go. So this guy just slides up in there, up to the 4 mounting holes. Okay, so I was fighting me there a little bit, but I think we got her now. All right, guys, so I got this metal plate down here installed, and let me tell you, I was having a bear of a time, and it's probably a good thing that I did it off camera, because I would have had to beat the whole thing out. But I went ahead and got the 4 motor bolts in, or the screws, got this plate in, and I got the electric eye on. So next thing we're going to work on is the back of the pump here, and then the wiring. So I'm going to lower the camera for a better angle, and let's start taking this pump apart. All right, so this is the old style pump that's on this unit here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take this off. And also, this is the adjuster screw, and you can see it, mud wasp had got in there and filled that thing up. So I would not be surprised, I have no idea, but I would not be surprised if this filter in here has never been changed. And I would say probably not. Look how bad that is. So that kind of makes me curious, but the rotor and the vanes in this may not be any good, so we may have to order parts for this one as well. I did get new gaskets and everything already, so that's not a big deal, but I did not order any more vanes or rotors here. I'm a little concerned this screw here, it did not want to come out, so I hope I don't have problems with it. It's going to break off. I really don't want it to. Well, guys, let me work on this screw here a little bit, and then I'll bring you back. But I have a feeling it's going to break off. Well, good news. I got it out, and you can see that the threads are boogered up in there for some reason. I think it's the aluminum, so we might have to run the die down through there, or the tap, and chase those threads. But what's it look like in here? I mean, other than the lube that I just put on there, it really doesn't look that bad. I'm actually kind of surprised. They are wore pretty good though. So otherwise, don't really look that bad. All right, so the motor's a little bit hard to spin over too, I see. So hopefully some lube will fix that, but I'm not sure. So we may be getting into more here than we think. So let me get these parts cleaned up, and then I'll bring you back, and we'll start either assembling or getting parts on order or whatnot. So hang tight. All right, guys, so we're back. So what I ended up doing is I took this down to the garage, and I made sure I cleaned out this thread. Remember that one screw we had some issues with. So I cleaned that up. I cleaned this guy up, which he's actually in really good shape. I'm kind of surprised. Then I also cleaned this guy up here. And just to point out, this surface here was not flat. I'm assuming just from the wear, it's never been replaced, never anything done to it. So I went ahead and resurfaced this. And how I did that, and you can do this at home if you need to, is get a sheet of glass, preferably something thick like a 1/4 inch or 3/16, you know, fairly thick. And I laid 400 grit wet dry sandpaper on there. And then I just took and taped that sandpaper to the glass, laid this on it, and then just did a circular motion. And that's how I got this surface back to where it is right now. And you can see it's really nice shape now. So you can do that at home. I also did that to this plate here. This is aluminum. This other piece here was cast iron. So with that said, we can go ahead and start assembling this. So the first thing we're going to put on is this guy. And I'm going to reposition the camera to see if it helps you. That way my big hands aren't in the way. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and install the rotor. This black piece here was actually stuck on, and it took me a little bit to get it off, but I was able to get it off. So the newer ones have a different style here. This kind of shows its age. The newer style will not fit on here, so you know. So if you have the one that has the black style in here, you have to stick with that. And what I mean is the newer style here, you can see it has a white insert. Even if you take that white insert out, it will not fit on here. This white insert also will not fit over top of that. So this does not work. Even though it's a 1/2 inch rotor, still will not work. There was nothing wrong with this one here, so we're going to go ahead and install him back on. All right. And we are going to do the same method as before. There's our 3000 gap. We'll snug these screws up. Everything spins freely like it should. Now here is the downfall. I do not have any extra parts on hand, so we are going to be reusing these guys, the Vanes. They are wore. You can see that they're wore. My plan is to see if this thing actually does run. If it does run, I will go ahead and get these new vanes and possibly a new rotor on order, and then install it later on, because this is in the back. These guys are easy to get to, so I'm not too worried about that. If you go to put these guys in and you put it in and it sticks out, that's in the wrong way. They only go in one way, so that's kind of nice. So there's the other one. And you can see they're falling just like they should and everything as well. So now we can go ahead and install this plate here. Okay, so once you get all those screws installed, you always want to make sure that everything still spins free, which it does. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to mention too is whenever I took and cleaned this up, I also took the motor apart and lubricated all the bearings. I cleaned the fan up and basically just cleaned everything, blew out the motor. And I was surprised everything internally is in relatively nice shape. So, very happy with that. All right, so next we're going to install this filter. And you can see, remember how bad the old one was. And this one doesn't have this cloth in here. Whoop, I shouldn't have done that. But we're going to install it in the same order. So it seems backwards to me, but that's the way it is. So this was installed this way before because you can see the lines of the screen there. And then there's a notch here that tells you which way it goes on. And I'm actually surprised there's not a felt washer behind that. All right, get that snugged up. We'll go ahead and get this air line brought up here. All right, so now we can go ahead and put the spring and the ball bearing in. And I'm telling you what, that old spring was in bad shape. It was in several pieces. So I have an old spring out of another one that's not in terrible shape. So we're going to go ahead and use it. It should be the same spring, but this hole here was really, really bad debris inside of it. All right. And then the spring, and then this guy. So on this in here, this is how you adjust your pressure on it. So what I'm hoping is, you know, we can get the gauge in here. This gauge here, I have a smaller one down there, or I put an extension on this. But you want a gauge that you can really see the pressure good. I like these bigger ones because it's easier to see. And that's where this guy here goes in. All right, so here was the old filter housing that went on top of here. And obviously, I mean, that's not terrible, but whenever I took the foam or whatever out of that, it completely fell apart. And unfortunately, you cannot buy that foam anymore. So it's kind of not right way to do it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff one of these guys in here. And you can see it covers it pretty good there. So we are going to try to put that in. And then this spring, all right, there it goes. All right, and that's all it holds that on. So everything looks good here. So the next thing we're going to start working on is all this wiring. And that is one of the nice things about this. And most of these heaters are all the same. There's a wiring diagram right on the back panel. So that helps us out tremendously. So I am going to move the camera for a better angle and make it easier for me to work on. And we'll start on the wiring here. All right, so the black wire went there, and the white wire looks like it goes back here. Let's try to get in there a little bit. I don't know why they made this box so freaking small. All right, so, you know, this is a European power cord here. A lot of people don't know, but brown is hot and blue is your neutral. And the easiest way I remember to do that, since I have a little bit of electronics background, is it's black brown for your resistor color code. So that tells me, you know, black is hot and brown is hot. So that's how I remember that the brown is hot on these guys. And then the hot went right to this circuit breaker. All right, so red run wire goes to terminal number 3 up on top here. So if I can get him to bend around, like I said, it's a shame they couldn't make us any smaller, huh? We'll go ahead and put our circuit breaker back in. And what do you guys think? Do you think you ought to throw some power to it and see what happens? Should we open up the shed here, the door, so we put it out in the yard in case I did something wrong and it ignites something. All right. Because that's about it. That's all the wiring is done. Everything internally is done. I think what I'll do is I'm going to adjust or make sure that I got some of these connections tight. And then, yeah, I think we're going to throw some power to it and see what happens. So let me get you a better camera angle and let's go from there. All right, so before we turn this on, I wanted to show you here in the manual. This is where I found the Toro. And you can see they had many different names that they were made under, or brands included here. And you can see Century, which is, I believe it's this guy here. So I believe this is a Toro model. And then if you look down here, the only thing that I can find that matches is this 97,000 BTU old style model. So it tells you to go to page, I think it's 105 here. And if you look at this page, everything on here matches this, including the old bracketry for the motor, the old style for pickup tube for the fuel, the wiring dimensions or schematic matches. Even the way the thing is built matches. So this has to be what this is. So this is a 97,000 BTU, which is the 101 EF. So the PSI setting is 5 on this. So, you know, I was going to test it beforehand, you know, and I thought, why do that? If something goes wrong, then you guys wouldn't see it. So with that said, guys, here goes nothing. Would you look at that? It actually did fire, and that is with the old fuel in it. So let's put the cover on. We're holding 5 PSI on the nose. Oh boy, it don't smell the prettiest. There's must be some mice pee inside that combustion chamber, because oh boy, is it not pretty smelling. But she's blowing some really nice heat. It even sounds good. She's starting to glow red, so she's burning well, and you can hear it. It's too bad you couldn't smell that, because it doesn't smell the prettiest at all. But it's cleaning up. Well, there you go. The thing fired up on the first time. The only thing I did notice is I had to turn this screw in for the pressure pretty far, so that spring that's in there must be a little bit weaker, so it's not really the right spring. So, but we are getting our pressure. It's actually burning really clean. I'm surprised. And I didn't do anything with the fuel, so I mean, if it's burning that fuel, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that fuel and burn that fuel out, because the price of fuel today, it's unreal. So, but with that said, guys, the only thing it needs done to this is I need to put the screws in on the cover here and button up the cover for the wiring, and that's pretty much it. Maybe replace that spring. I might get some new vanes on order. But anyway, the other torpedo heater that's laying here, like I said, the ProTemp, all it needs is the igniter, and it's going to be good to go. So with that said, guys, I hope you learned something on this. I'll leave some parts and descriptions in the description down below so you have it. And please hit that like and subscribe button. And until next time, take care.